Boxing's Throwdown. My name is Steve Johnson, co-host of Radio Martinez. This morning in our third and final segment, which is a fan favorite, once again we have our open topic. And today we have a very interesting open topic. We've been joined by the Vice President of the National Silver Gloves, it was Mike Rodgers. And as you folks remember, about a month ago we had USA Boxing President John Brown on. And Mike has some, I don't know if we want to call it a rebuttal to John Brown, but he has some information that he wants to get out there, and we will have more in depth, but just briefly you're going to let Mike talk about the situation.
Good. Well, that's good. I don't know if we'd call it a rebuttal. I mean, I think this is breaking news more than it is rebuttal. It's about the stronghold and the antics that USA Boxing has had for the longest time that we can remember, and you kind of tie that in with the things AIBA has been trying to do in the back scene. This is I wouldn't call it a rebuttal. I'd call it an what do you call it when you bring them out?
Expose?
You're just bringing them out. You're bringing the issue out to the open, to the public. And I think there's some real big issues that most of us that have been close into the USA Boxing scene and participants pretty much know, but now it's time for the general public to know.
Well, I know that Mike's contention is that amateur boxing, USA Boxing, and Golden Gloves are in jeopardy. And so, Mike, having said that, let's get right to you. And we welcome Mike Rodgers. Mike, talk a little bit about
thank you, sir.
What brought us to this point.
Thank both of you gentlemen for allowing me to be on this show. And my grandpa would say, son, you just pulled down the curtain and exposed the Wizard of Oz.
There you go, Mike.
So, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, Mike, it's your floor. Let's let you take off and just talk about how we got to this point where you have done your own homework that you have shared with me. But let's go with you. Just talk to our folks here about what's going on.
Well, what is going on blatantly is that John Brown is using USA Boxing money to start his own Ringside Products 2.0 in Kansas. He owns the brand, and it is a complete conflict of interest with everything associated to amateur boxing. Now it gives him a chance to use the power of a national governing body to leverage his position against other companies also associated in Kansas, like Titles, like Combat Brands, that bought Ringside Products. And quite frankly, there are things that are going on that have never happened before, ever in the history of boxing. When I first started my involvement with amateur boxing, it was the AAU. Then when it went from the AAU, it went to the ABF. Then from the ABF to the USA ABF. Then from that to the USA Amateur Boxing, and then from USA Amateur Boxing to just USA Boxing. Obviously, they dropped that off, the amateur aspect of it, when they decided to start working with pros. And I say all that to say because in all these iterations of national governing bodies that have existed in the history of amateur boxing, none of them have once ever charged anyone a $45,000 sanctioning fee. There is a rule inside the Ted Stevens Act, a law that states that you cannot charge unfair and discriminatory sanctioning fees if it gets the Ted Stevens Act. It's a direct violation. That's exactly what they're doing. What they have done. You know, they think they're impervious to the law right now at this particular point. They're doing things that, let me tell you, when there was one aspect, I challenged them. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. You show me a law or a rule that states that I have to do this, and we'll make it happen. They couldn't show me one. And then at that particular point, they started threatening and then going on smear campaigns for things that had absolutely nothing to do about it. So that's where we're at, and that's what's going on. We have two, and then I exposed the Duke connection, and the Duke connection being the fact that everyone of the leadership in amateur boxing now, this isn't their first rodeo. This isn't the first time that they've ever got together. And all they did was put the band back together. These are all people that have been tied together closely, that have either worked for or with Tommy the Duke Morrison or Ringside Products or both. That's not a coincidence. Every single person. And if you go even deeper, and you start looking at the board, you talk about Dick Hoffman, who's box sport, Tom Bridgette, and I believe that he's boxed for John Brown. And then you look at Cam, who lost the election, and then they worked it and finagled it in his favor so that they got him on the board, even though he lost the original election. Now, their complaint was in the grievance that they were overseas, and the gentleman that he gave the facts to, the information, didn't speak English well enough to put the document in there and fax it to the right people. But the thing is, the onus should have been on Cam, not on the person making the fax. The onus is on Cam to make sure that when he looks down there at that phone number, the right phone number was called, the right phone number was confirmed, the right phone number went through. That has nothing to do with the person sending the fax. It has to do with the person, has to do with Cam, who's trying to get the fax sent. So I don't know how that happened. Well, yes, I do, but we all know how that happened.
Exactly.
When you look around, when you turn around and you look at the board now, every single one of them are loyal, due to some kind of historical background with John Brown, and this is we've gone from bad to worse. We are now in the fire.
Well, Mike, let's talk a little bit about the situation currently where, there was an allegation from Liz Podomnik that at the tournament, I can't remember, it was in Albuquerque. It was in Albuquerque where she was assaulted by John Brown, and that has been kind of poo-poo, but you have that verified.
It's hurt. I'm not going to say that he assaulted her. I'll say the allegation of assault has been made by a USA Boxing employee.
Mm-hmm.
I provided a witness statement. I provided the actual. It was bad enough that she felt the need to file a police report. So that can't be hidden. That is public record. It's there. I provided it for everyone to see. And however, she has turned this information into USA Boxing. She's turned it into USOC. 2 months later, nothing has been done about it. No one knows about it. It's swept under the rug. No one's talking about it. And you know what? That poor woman is probably sitting there afraid to say a word to anybody about anything for fear of retaliation. Really? This is the world we live in? This is how we're going to handle this? It's unacceptable.
Well, I agree, and also I know that for a fact, as you do, I've got several witnesses also to the incident who said that it definitely did happen. But like you said, for some reason, she's been shut up. Okay, and I'm sure it's for fear of retaliation. That's the only thing it could be. The next thing is that my concern is that, like I said earlier, your contention is that USA Boxing and the Golden Gloves right now are in jeopardy of being disbanded, and amateur boxing totally in jeopardy. Explain that if you can, Mike.
Not disbanded. I'm having a hard time understanding who said what. Who just asked me that question?
That's me, Steve Johnson.
Okay, yeah, not disbanded. Golden Gloves is the most prestigious brand in all of amateur boxing. It is far more powerful than any national governing body that has ever existed. Why? Because it's made up by brothers and sisters that love amateur boxing, that love the Golden Glove, and they've been together for almost 100 years. I think it's like 85, 90. It's a long time. Longer than any other national governing body has ever existed. Now, it's also an international prestigious brand. So John Brown has put his hooks into play to take over that as well. And it's in the works. So be watching, be looking, because it's happening.
Now, having said that, like you said, this is Steve again, Mike. You said you want everybody to pay attention. Is there anything else that has really inspired you to go more public like you are today? Like I said, there's been a few of us that have been privy to, and I thank you for that, for letting you know what's going on. But anything that you think that is really going to spark more of the interest in in nationally and what's going on.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So a year ago,
Round three.
in a meeting, an executive meeting, I brought up to Mike McAtee the potential issue that we had for allowing pedophiles to be around children in amateur boxing. And he said, well, we're doing the minimum requirements to make sure that doesn't happen. And I said, that's not good enough. It absolutely is not good enough. He said, well, it's $25 per background check. So to do that, and he said, how do we have a loophole? I said, well, now you're having older people that are involved in amateur boxing. Now, that was another thing that they had claimed was that they wanted, I don't know if you know this or not, but did you know 40-year-old men are allowed to compete in the Golden Glove now?
Yes.
So now that you have 18-year-old versus 40-year-old men, how does that bring down the liability for any insurance company or USA Boxing? It doesn't. It raises the liability. An 18-year-old Mike Tyson might decapitate a 40-year-old boxer. True. So it doesn't bring down the liability, increases it. But why? Why do you think that is? Well, it's because AIBA wants that to happen. Why do they want that to happen? I think you're starting to fill in the blanks, if you can.
Yes.
So the next thing is, and I challenged them. I said, look, now that you're having these older guys competing, why don't you just have a Masters tournament as opposed to doing that? Not radio silence, nothing. And I said, well, look, we've got a problem because now you're opening the door for pedophiles to come in. He said, well, how's that? Because we only background check our officials, our coaches, our officials, and non-athletes. An athlete that is 18 years or older never has to go through the background check. So if they have a history of having harmed a child or harmed someone in a sexual manner, assault, we wouldn't know it. We wouldn't know it. We would have to do some kind of third-party background check on our own. I don't even know if that's legal to provide that to protect these children. So now you've got people that are walking around the gym. Since you have a gym full of kids that are boxing too, now you've got a gym full of adults that have never had background checks around them, and now you put the children at risk. So he said it's cost prohibitive, $25 per check. It wouldn't work. So I said, well, I tell you what if I find you a better deal, and we at least take a look at doing something to implement that to protect the children. He said, go for it. That following Monday, I went and found a deal that not only cut the price from $25 to $12, but also offered a plethora of services that were additional to what it is that they offered in the current background check process. However, it took Mike a few days. He responded. He said, I have it. We went back and forth for a few months, me trying to follow up on it, and him just, oh yeah, I got this, somebody looking at it. I got this looking at it. And then eventually, nothing. It's been almost a year, nothing.
And you know what, Mike,
I have to question why.
And that's mind-boggling to me because when you first sent me that information, that you definitely had that price cut from 25, they're saying with 25, you said to 12. And the fact that Mike McAtee just continued on, I believe it was Mike McAtee, continued on just poo-pooing it telling he'll get back to you. I agree with you. If he didn't want to do it, just say we don't want to do it. But to carry it on, it's just nonsense. I don't know. I know I have my own opinion on everything that's going on, but I appreciate you once again coming on and giving a little light to our viewers as to what's going on, and we will definitely follow up with you and with InsideBoxing.com. We'll do a series of pieces about this as with input from you and others as to what the state of the amateur boxing is as far as, the biggest problem that we have, Mike, is that we're getting close to 2020 Olympics, and you already know that the IOC has threatened AIBA and USA Boxing and boxing around the world about potentially dropping boxing from the 2020 agenda. I understand that
it would be the best thing that could ever happen for amateur boxing right now.
And that's just so they could be forced to get their ducks in order, correct?
That's exactly correct. If the IOC removed boxing as a sport from the Olympics right now, because right now AIBA only wants to use professionals anyway. So those boxers that are in the grassroots more than likely are not going to even be considered on the Olympic team unless they're willing to sign a professional contract with AIBA first anyway.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that?
Nobody does.
Especially after knowing, who's in leadership now at Iowa State. So at IEVA.
Yes.
So with that being said, the best thing that could happen is for them to do that, and then the grassroots are no longer under the Ted Stevens Act. USA Boxing can no longer rule by the Ted Stevens Act, and it gives competitors the ability to open up and allow the grassroots to thrive inside the United States. That doesn't mean that we can't participate in international competition. It doesn't mean we can't participate in national competition or local competition. It's just the AAU, let me tell you, when this all broke out back in the late 70s, early 80s, when the Ted Stevens Act was implemented, the AAU stepped down and the ABF stepped in to be the NGB that reported to the USOC.
Right.
However, the AAU is still a very viable organization to this day. They still have almost every single sport that you can imagine that you can participate in, and they do not report to the USOC.
True.
They do not have to fall under the Ted Stevens Act. So there's still a way to survive with the amateur boxing, even with or without this. However, as long as they can use the Olympics to hold over people's heads and try to give them that dream, that carrot, what is it, the carrot and stick thing, then people are going to be less likely to want to make that jump for fear that they're going to lose their ability to compete in the Olympics. So I got news for you. You've already lost that ability.
Hey, Mike, some truly great points. Once again, I want to thank you. Aurelio, if you have any other questions you would like to say that might make a comment.
Yeah, Mike, this is Aurelio. I definitely want to have you, there's a whole lot that we would like to cover. This is, and I want to thank you because we get plenty of calls of people telling us different things, but it's all like, but you can't tell them you heard it from me. So we don't pay attention to these kind of accusations. But in the email that you sent out, there's an awful lot of information in them emails that basically exposes USA Boxing in, I don't want to say wrongdoings, but in different things. So real quick, we got a couple.
It's definitely unscrupulous behavior.
Absolutely. So we're going to have you back on because we want to piece this up and piece by piece so we can break it into different segments. But right now, what I really want to talk about before we close this segment is the conflict. Now I have my opinion, and not sure I want to listen to your opinion. How is it that USA Boxing has allowed John Brown to have these multiple conflicts
Of interest.
At being the president of USA Boxing, and if you want, touch on some of the conflicts and how it's just so wrong.
Well, I mean, John Brown is a walking conflict of interest. I mean, but that's nothing new. I've showed court documents that go all the way back to the early to mid '90s that show that he's been a conflict of interest his entire life, virtually his entire history, and some of them. He's ignored his fiduciary responsibilities. So it's a very convoluted situation. Right now, he's acting as the president of USA Boxing, while he's also an LBC president. Well, what? He's also a franchise holder, a gym holder. He's a coach. He actually has worked his boxers' corners as the president of USA Boxing. Now he's creating a boxing equipment company that he's going to run from Kansas, where he owns the brand that is going to be sold and created with USA Boxing money. Now, if this isn't a conflict of interest, then I don't know what is. They have now, I don't know if you've heard this or not. I reported it in the information I sent out, but now USA Boxing has applied to be a voting member of the ABC, which is a commission designed for professional boxing commission.
Yes.
Why does USA Boxing have any business doing that?
Well, you laid it out why it is.
I know that, you know that. It's a rhetorical question, but it's very upsetting for sure.
Well, let me just end. I'll end my conversation in this by saying I was most disturbed to find out that last week that the powers that be, John Brown, whoever, had decided to remove your dad, Ray Rodgers, as vice president of the National Golden Gloves.
Yes, sir.
That seems to me like retaliation for your dad not, towing the company line on what's going on. Briefly, your point on that, Mike.
I'll just say my father is a much better man than me. I've been sitting on all kinds of information that I want to come forward with, and my father is old school. He's loyal and he is a gentleman, and he wasn't about all of that. So he's like, nope, I don't work that way. However, after they went through with it, I made the decision to move forward to get the information out there. So there you have it.
All right, Mike. Hey, it's
and the reason I did this is because it is an old school mindset. You can't fight this kind of fight in a closet and expect to come out unscathed.
true.
This fight can't be fought in the dark. This fight can't be fought in shadows. This fight can't be fought at night. It has to be fought in broad daylight in the middle of everybody under the spotlight so that everybody can see exactly who's going at it and why. They need to understand, because now you've got a bunch of backstabbers, cutthroats, and without bringing them to the light to expose them, they will continue to do what they're going to do, and we can't allow that to happen anymore.
I couldn't agree more. And the usual suspects right now are John Brown, Tom Verjetts, Mike McAtee. Those names go back to, as far as I can find, from 1992. And they're all part of what's going on now. So, Mike, once again, appreciate you
coming. The connection.
Yes, that's right, Tommy Morrison. So I appreciate you coming on this morning. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate you. And we'll be on top of this, and we will definitely be in touch. Radio?
Well, gentlemen, the one thing that we all have in common is a passion and a love and a desire to see the sport of boxing prosper. And I don't think we want to see anything bad happen to anybody in it or around it or working with it. However, there's sometimes things can get ugly in a family, and it's better to talk it out than it is to fight it out in a closet.
Well, I'll tell you again, Mike. I want to thank you. This is Aurelio, and you say we don't want and you say we don't want anything bad to happen to anyone. I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. If you're a bad person, if you're a bad person, then bad things should happen to you. That's all there is to it. Okay. So.
Well, you said that when I did.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyhow, Mike, we're going to stay in touch. We want to have you on the show because there's a lot in your documentations that you exposed out, and we certainly want the public in the United States of America to be aware. Okay?
Hey, Mike.
And let them know if they didn't receive a copy of the document and they want a copy, email me at Mike Rodgers, RODGERS .SR@gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy of all the information.
Sounds good, Mike. Go. Hey, buddy, have a good Sunday, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hang up.
Okay, thank you. That been watching this. This was an extended version of our open topic, but it's something that needs to be said, Steve, to the public out there, because this isn't anything new. It goes way back into the 70s of the mischievous operations that the official USOC organization that they picked for the amateur boxing sanctioning in the United States has been. It's nothing new. It's been. You know, I want to go saying it's been close to corrupt, if not corrupt, and it's always been that way, and nothing's changed. It's still following that same street. They haven't turned to try to better anything, and unless people were aware of it, Steve, out there, people just don't know. Nothing's gonna change. These guys will continue to strong arm.
Well, like I said, as far as I know, since 1992, we've had 3 names. That's John Brown, Mike McAtee, and Tom Verjetts that are associated with that triumvirate there, and they're still in charge now. Well, now they are definitely in charge. They had an affiliation back when they were, co-promoting, when John Brown was co-promoting Tommy Morrison, and that's why Mike made the reference to the Duke connection. So,
yeah.
Well, we'll get more into it, but like Radio said, this is an extended version, and we'll be back and with you guys next week. We'll talk about our upcoming fight cards, next week's fights, and as usual with Inside Boxing's Throwdown, we always say keep them hands up,
Keep them hands
baby,
up.
and keep it classy.